Okay guys, today I'm going to show you how to glaze a cup. The requirements for our tripod pots, these pots, is I'm going to require you to use at least 3 glazes. So we're going to experiment a little bit with some new glaze combinations and overlapping and dipping. Okay, and this will get you introduced to the glazing process. So I have them posted. Let me show you where they're posted. Right over here. Steps to glazing. Okay. Alright, step number 1, wipe down your bisqueware with a clean sponge, because glaze doesn't stick to a dirty pot. Put wax resist on the foot. Then you got to mix the glaze up, because it's mostly water at the top if it's been sitting. Do the inside first by pouring. That applies 3 coats. Then you dip the outside with the tongs. Last, you wipe off any glaze that got stuck to the bottom despite your wax attempts. So, let's do that in practice. Here's your pot. It has been bisfired. You can tell it's been bisfired because it's pink and it's harder. It's not gray anymore. Okay, so this is bisware. It has gone through these kilns at least once. All you need to do, since this has been sitting back here for a while, is wipe it down. Do not run it underwater because then it'll soak up a lot of water and it won't absorb glaze. Okay, so I know you're thinking it'd be faster if I just ran it underwater. Yes, but then you'll have to wait a day. Okay. So we need to just get all the dust off the outside because, again, glaze does not stick to a dusty, dirty pot. You want to make sure you don't have any oils on your hands either, like if you've just been eating Doritos and put fingerprints there, it's going to create oil and you'll have fingerprints there. So don't do that either. Glaze is toxic. It has some toxic chemicals in it. For example, a blue glaze will have cobalt in it. That's dangerous for you to drink or ingest, or if you get it into dust form. Okay, as long as it's liquid, it's safe. But make sure you wash your hands before and after and don't eat in this room. God forbid, don't eat in this room. Okay? Next step is the wax. So we've got wax in this pot right here for you. I'll show you that it says wax resist. There is a special brush for wax resist. Don't just grab any brush, especially these, not for wax. Because once you get wax on a brush, it doesn't come off very easily and you can't use it for glaze. So I've got a little hole that I've cut in here that keeps the wax from hardening, and all you're going to have to do, it is liquid wax, is you need to paint wax on the bottom of your pot to keep glaze from sticking there. So if you remember from the beginning of the semester, you don't want to glaze the bottom, because if you do glaze it, glaze is basically liquid glass, it will melt in the kiln and cool, and then there'll be a layer of glass and it'll be stuck to the kiln shelf, so it hardens and cools. And I'll have to use a chisel pry it off. So I am putting wax on the bottom. I'm also putting wax a little bit up the side, just like maybe 4 millimeters. Because that'll give it a little bit of room to run. So glaze is liquid and it does run down a little bit depending on how many layers you have. So we just like to give it a little bit of room for error. Alright. Now you have to wait for the wax to dry before you can dip it for the first time. So I'm going to let that dry. I've already waxed this and this is dry. This goes back in here. Just tape it up. Ready for the next person. Okay, so you can see a little bit. The wax is pretty clear, but hopefully you can see where it is because it's a little bit shiny. So I waxed this part. I also waxed this part. That's sort of my room for error in case it runs. Let me show you the next step is to mix the glaze. So I'm going to be using, and the glaze labels are on the side. We've got about 10 different colors. Some of the colors have already been tested for you in the kiln. This is not like underglaze at all. Like when you open an underglaze and you're like, this is red. You open it up, it's red. You fire it, it's red. Okay? This is not like that at all. For example, this is a red color. It's going to fire to red, but if you open it, it looks pretty white. You can see a little bit of it there. It looks chalky white right now. When you fire it, it's going to turn this color. Okay, so this is the sample right there. It does turn red depending on the thickness, so it goes from gray to red. Some of these glazes I've tested so you know what they look like. This is the Brad's Oriental Turquoise, so if you like that, you have a little bit of information here. Please don't break these or move these. This is for your information. Okay, so I'm going to do my base layer with a color called Anne's Tan, which looks like this. So it's a tan color, a little bit of yellow in it. I put the texture on these tiles so you would know what it looks like in texture. I made you guys put texture in your tripod pots because it'll change colors sometimes. So when you open a glaze for the first time, sometimes it looks like this. This has not been stirred. Alright, so if you wiggle that around, it just looks like water on the top, because it is water on the top. So I'm going to show you that water. Okay, so if I just dip my pot in there right now, it wouldn't turn that pretty color. So water doesn't do anything magical in the kiln, it just evaporates. I've already stirred up the Anne's tan. Let me show you how I did it. This is a drill with an auger bit, okay? So if it looks like that, you're just going to drill it. And drill it for a couple minutes. Until all the chunks are mixed up. And you want it kind of like a Pepto-Bismol consistency. It's still pretty liquidy. Not going to be as thick as mayonnaise, okay? Pepto-Bismol, not a good comparison. It makes me seem old, doesn't it? What? Chocolate milk? Okay, that's a good comparison. Yeah, that's a good comparison, okay? So a lot of these will end up looking like chocolate milk. Make sure you stir in all the chocolate. You can wash this in the sink. Please don't get the drill in the sink, but you don't want to mix colors. So if I'm using this and I want to switch and stir up a different color, you can just use that. You have to set this in a safe place so that it won't break. Okay, so nice and flat. That's good. All right, now this is stirred up. I'm just going to use a yogurt cup right here because we have to glaze the inside first. So now that it's all stirred up, if I pour it, that's already 3 coats. So I'm going to do like that. And as I pour it out, I roll it so it covers all the sides. And that's 3 coats of glaze right there. Okay, nice and even. Faster than brushing, and it looks better than brushing. Okay. Now, if let's say you're going to do the outside a different color, you could always just wipe this off. It may not make a difference since I'm going to do the outside Anne's tan as well. But I'm going to stop and show you the grading portion of this. It's very important to document. Okay. So this is what your sketchbook is for. You're going to draw me a picture of your pot. My pot looks like this. So what I've done here is I've just put a color called Anne's Tan on the inside, and I poured it, which means I have 3 coats. Okay? This goes in your sketchbook. If you don't have this, I take off 20 points automatically. Because there's nothing worse than getting something out of the kiln that's like, oh my god, that glaze is really cool. What color is that? I don't know. Okay? Write it down. That's how we got all these things. We've already done some samples of what color looks good over what other color. That way you can share it and use it again. Okay? So that's done. Now I'm going to do the outside. These are glaze tongs. This is how they work. You grab onto it without you having to leave fingerprint marks. You got to get a good grip on it. Okay, so it's like this. You want to make sure you don't tilt it when you put it in there because you'll get air into there and you'll get more glaze. And that'll especially make a difference if you're doing a different color. So I just lower it into there, making a hold for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull it up. Again, when you dip, that's already 3 coats of glaze, so you only have to dip once. It does not take long for this to dry. And I think the inside's dry, so I'm going to go ahead and hold it by that. Okay, and I'm going to stop and document. Okay, outside, Anne's Tan, 3 coats because I dipped it. Dipping is 3 coats. If you're going to brush something on, it only brushes on 1 coat at a time. Alright, now that I'm done with that, I'm going to put back the right lid. And I've already pre-stirred these because I know that I want to use this one. This is a new glaze that I haven't tried out, but it's a blue color. I have stirred it with the drill, but you can also use these. And what you're listening for is the sound of the bottom of the bucket. Okay, so that's the sound of this hitting plastic. If it's chunky down there, you'll hear a duller sound. It sounds like chopped up glaze. Okay, but that's, I did stir it with the drill ahead of time, so this is good. Looks like chocolate milk. These can just be washed off in here as well. Okay, so now this is where I'm going to start doing a few extra designs. be intentional dripping, so don't just take the glaze and drip it. This is a really cool tool though. It sucks up some glaze. Okay, and so now I can come in like this. Okay, so it'll make sort of some, what do we call that shape? We call it a thimble shape. Okay, so I'm going to do one on this side, and then I'm going to do one on this opposite side. Thimble shape, or let's call it a thumb shape, shaped like a thumb. If you do this, it automatically, what, a parabola? And just wash this out with water as well. Okay, so that is JB Blue. So I'm going to stop and document. Let go, I don't want it to drip down. Alright. I made a couple of things here and there. JB Blue. JB Blue. Over. Make sure you write down what it's over or what it's under. And tan. Okay? Come back, guys! Come back! We're not done. Not done. Almost done. Remember I said 3 colors. Okay? So, the last color I'm going to use is Shanner's Red. This has already been stirred up ahead of time. And so what I'm going to do, since I'm going to just do a dipped ring right here, this top part. Again, dipping is 3 coats. So I'm just going to dip, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let it go. So now I've got Shanner's Red over JB Blue and tan. So this is really like 9 layers of glaze. You don't want to do that over the whole thing. If you have 9 layers of glaze over the whole thing, it's going to run a lot. Okay, but that's a pretty good design. Don't do exactly what I did. Okay, we want to try different combinations. But again, document Shanner's Red over all. Okay, so this is what mine looks like. A really good documentation of how did I get those colors. This is how I got it. Now let me show you where it goes. When you're done, you just want to make sure that you don't have any glaze at the bottom. So just wipe it off the wax. Make sure your name's on it. If it's not, I have a special pen that I can write it with. This is where the gas kiln is. So anything that uses this glaze, you want to put back in this shelf. Just hold it up. Right here. That'll let me know that I need to load it in the gas kiln. You don't put it in the gas kiln, I will. Sometimes it's like 2,000 degrees. So just put it on that shelf, and that lets me know that I need to fire the gas kiln. These are fired at a much hotter temperature, cone 10, which is like 2,300 degrees. These are fired at about 1,800 degrees. This is where I do the bisque firing. That's where I do the glaze firing. This is the second firing. Okay? And then when they're done, it'll end up looking something like this. So it's glossy. They're a little bit darker colors, a little more natural colors than the other glaze. This is a test tile that's already been done that we know is cool. Limestone under Shanner's Red. And it gets those little spots. So that's an example. Okay? Questions about the glazing process? It's a lot of documentation. It's a little bit of a scientific experiment, but hopefully we get some cool colors. And that's what it's for. Testing colors. And glazing process. No questions? No? Okay.
I have a question, actually.
Questions?
Can we glaze donuts eventually?
No. 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 That's a different kind of glaze. That's the edible glaze. This is not edible glaze.